when we started the IPO process, I think our CFO was in the hospital battling COVID um, with severe lung damage, right? So that's the backdrop in which we are starting the IPO process. Um, the travel industry has been completely decimated.
Yeah.
So no one's really lining up to work for you and say, hey, we want to join RateGain. So you don't even have enough people. So you have maybe 6 or 8 people, in which majority of them were finance. Then our current chief strategy officer, Yogesh, me, and Bhanu. And then the bankers, and then the lawyers, and then all of these people that most marketers would never speak with.
Or not like to speak with.
Or would not like to speak with, or not understand what their job is. And I was thrown in the middle of this where we were still crafting our DRHP. We were still in the process of crafting our DRHP, and the investor presentation for the roadshow was being prepared. And I remember that, as soon as I got involved, the first ask was, we don't like this. Can you change this? So I formatted it. So
the presentation, the roadshow presentation.
And then the feedback was, no, we need to change this. This is not us.
But what really is this roadshow presentation?
You have to go to investors and go and pitch to them that this is what our company is, this is what our prospects are, this is how we will grow. And we made a video overnight which explained the concept of RateGain, because that was the biggest challenge that we had, because we'd never been India focused. No one understood RateGain, let alone RateGain, they did not understand what travel technology is.
Yeah, travel SaaS. Yeah.
They did not understand the category at all. They only understood that there is travel,
which is the make my trip of the word.
Yeah, they did not understand SaaS, and they did not understand travel SaaS. So I had one massive unaware community where we had to start from the basics. And we realized this, that and we also realized that this customer that we are talking to is a customer that is not even willing to know what your company is. He's trying to understand how will you make money in a period when your entire industry has been brought down to its knees. How is this sector going to make money, and why should we invest in it? That's the time when we were trying to go public, and it helped me go back to the drawing board and start thinking about how do we tell the story of RateGain. So we did this video overnight, me and my designer. We got one sales guy who had a very nice British accent to do the voiceover, right? And these are the hacks that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Now, you are the founder of a company and you tell your marketing team that I need a video. And you're like, okay, budget, sir. No, I don't have that kind of budget. So you start thinking that, okay, I have one day. I need clips. And I need a story. Once you crack the story and you've got the right person to do the voiceover, then the visuals can be put together. So we did that. That became very easy for anyone and everyone to understand what RateGain does. That video is still on our YouTube channel. And it starts with, imagine the perfect trip. Right? And it does not go into, we do X number of data points. We do this, we do that, we do that. It goes into a very simple emotion.
It is also for a mass audience, not really
exactly, right? So imagine a perfect trip full of smiles, and it goes into what you would feel on a great trip, and then putting the question in your head that, but have you ever imagined how all of this is done?
Right.
It's done by RateGain. And throughout that video, on every movement, that we are showing in the traveler's journey. We are saying this is what RateGain is able to do. This is what. So people could connect. I hope they could.
Yeah.
But and I would love to believe that they could.
Yeah.
But that was the first hurdle that we had to solve. Right.
So the communication.
The communication. The number one point for anyone to remember, and I learned this during that project and after that project, is that IPO is a marketing campaign. It's not a finance campaign, or it's not a finance project. It is a finance. It's a massive finance undertaking because you have to have your papers in order. You have to do a lot of regulation. There's a lot of work that finance has to do. But
in the end, it's, I mean, people have to buy what you're selling.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the earlier you involve marketing in it, the better it is. Right?
But were you aware of, okay, if I have to do this, then these are the 5, 6, 10 things I have to do?
During the IPO process, no, I was calling people and learning from them.
Who have done this before?
Who've done this for a living, right? Agencies, our partners, we called them, pulled out a lot of personal favors, asked constantly, what should I do, what should I do, what should I do? Because I actually did not know anyone who had done an IPO. Right? And they were kind enough to tell me, think of this, do this, do this. And some of it was then learning. Some of it was learning. But as soon as we built the DRHP, we realized after submitting the DRHP that it's too complicated. So then in the presentation, we tried to simplify everything constantly. Every time we got feedback and thought that this slide is too complicated, people are getting stuck at this slide, we would go back to the drawing board and fix it. But the only problem in that was I could only do that once the roadshow was over, because once your roadshow starts, you can't change your slide deck. So
what exactly is a roadshow like?
It's a virtual. It was a virtual roadshow because this was during COVID. So we were
doing like webinars.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hundreds of it.
Is this like a mandate by SEBI that you have to do these roadshows and
by your bankers?
By bankers.
By your bankers. You have to go and tell their sales teams that this is how you would sell, and then you meet a lot of other people.
But who, like, how do you get the audience to?
Your bankers get them.
Bankers
would get them. And your bankers are responsible to get those audiences in front of you.
Got it.
Right? So they would bring those people in, and they would do a massive 1, 2, 3 week. You're constantly either on the road if you're doing it physically, or you're online.
Okay.
And I think our management had done 100 calls, if not more, telling their story, right? And they improvised every time they did that.
And this would be with institutional investors or retail investors?
Institutional investors. Okay. Retail investors was a different experience, but institutional investors mostly.
Okay.
Retail investors roadshows depend on how big your retail portion is. So we did one in Rajkot, and
like a physical one.
Like a physical roadshow.
Okay. It would be like a PR event of sorts?
It was a PR event. There was a room full of retail investors who knew the market. And we were talking about AI and SaaS. And
why Rajkot?
Rajkot is the third largest market for retail traders and investors. Very interesting city. It also has a very big manufacturing base. So there's a lot of capital that has traditionally flown in that market, and it's not very, very far from Bombay, from Surat, from all these manufacturing and trading hubs. So I think after Bombay, Ahmedabad, Rajkot is the third largest, and on a short notice, that is where we could do it quickly.
So you did the roadshow for the institutional investors. You did one for the retail investors.
My management did it for institutional. I did one. I was part of that.
Right.
I was lucky enough to hear it, learn from it.
And what else?
Then we did one for the press, for the Hindi media and the English media, which is also very interesting because you're trying to explain to them technology which is not very easy to grasp. So which was also very, very interesting to do. But
But it was really like, and I think RateGain till that time would have completed 20 years, right?
no, we've completed 20 years now.
Now.
But yeah,
So
17
almost like
years.
17 years.
Yeah.
So after almost 17 years, you have to really dumb down your
Story. Yeah.
story
Yeah.
for everyone to
For
understand.
everyone to understand. And it's not an audience that is very attuned to how SaaS works, how travel technology works. So we started with the frame of reference, and this goes back to the basics of marketing. Always have a frame of reference, right? And then be able to tell from that frame of reference what is your points of differentiation.
Yeah.
This is like lesson one of
101.
marketing, right?
Yeah.
Frame of reference, IT services. IT services has helped you earn a lot of money over the years, and there's a new wave of technology that's coming in that will come into the market,
Which is SaaS.
And we are one of the first ones to bring this to you. And here is the difference, right? Between IT services and SaaS. That's what we first tried to educate them on. And after we did that, then we got into the opportunity of travel. How big is travel? How big can it get? And then we tried to also educate them with their own context. Like, look at India. Look at how much travel is happening in India. And what we had done before the IPO was we had done a lot of local coverage in Economic Times, in other newspapers, showing the recovery of travel.
Okay.
Right?
For the category as a whole.
For the category as a whole in India. That
this was pre this 6 months.
Yeah, this is pre 6 months. Obviously, I did not know you were going for an IPO, but pre 6 months, I had done a lot of data for the recovery of Indian markets. Where are people traveling? How quickly the market recovers,
right?
Because all of that became relevant when we started talking about how quick will be the recovery of the travel industry. How less is the impact of COVID now? From wave 1 to wave 2 to wave 3 to wave 4, right? So we had data around all of that, which goes back to the fact that if as a marketer you can think of data, if you are comfortable with data, then you'll be able to build these stories.
Right.
And you know that any editor or any associate editor or any special correspondent needs data.
Obviously.
Because think of them as your customer as well. They need to go and justify to their editor that here's a story which is unique. Here's a story which tells us what is changing, and we should put this, right? So if you give them that, we feel that this will help you get the story in, you'll be more than happy to take it.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that if you need a source to trust, you have RateGain.
Right.
And then you made that position in their head. And you do that enough number of times successfully, you will start getting people calling you and saying, can we get more data around this? Right? And then you'll have a good problem then, because a lot of people will be calling you and saying, can I get more data?
Right. So it really started with building positivity around the category. Then it was roadshow for the institutional investors, retail investors. What after that?
Once you've listed is when the actual story starts. Because then you're managing perceptions. Then you're stuck on the stock price. How will I take the stock price up? Right? But leading up to the IPO process, your role kind of is still the retail investor excitement.
And how do you really build that excitement?
It totally depends on how well known your category is.
So, for example, I've seen companies prior to going for an IPO, they would have big hoardings, big print ads, everything going live.
Those are, and this is controversial, those are very stock options. This is like, ye kar do. Kyun kar dein? Why should I invest in this? You should then think of your TG, right? I'm sure those are calculated decisions, but in a lot of cases, those are stock options given to you. Here's the budget. Spend. And because either your marketing guy is being told by the CFO or the CEO that, okay, let's just do this. And the marketing guy is thinking that maybe this is not a marketing campaign. So let's just go ahead with what the PR firm is saying and do it. We didn't do it. We didn't do one hoarding. Because we knew that doing a hoarding in a public place will not solve anything for us.
Or a print ad.
We did some print ads which were statutory.
Okay.
Which were like, okay, let's do this.
Because it has to be done. That's mandatory.
It has to be done. Let's do this because you guys are suggesting that visibility is important. But we actually went and said, who do we really want to target and where are they? Right?
So do you really create cohorts within the retail investors as well? That, okay, within the retail investor segment.
My point was that if I put RateGain out there on a hoarding, no one's going to understand anything.
Right.
If I put a print ad, no one will understand what RateGain is. I need to do category education. So, and luckily the rules around influencer marketing and brand insertions at the time we went public were a little more lenient. Now they've become a lot more strict on what you can say, what you cannot say. You have to clearly suggest that this is a product that is endorsed. So we actually partnered with a few influencers to educate them about RateGain, not really say that you will invest. We were not in that game. We said, please go and educate people and say that this is what this company does. Because unfortunately, before us, the companies that had listed were all loss-making new age tech companies. Some of them had a bumper opening, some of them had a muted opening, and the overall perception was that these new age companies,
they're not worth it.
They are crashing the system. And
maybe, people would have changed their perception now, but
yes,
back then, yes.
So we had to now suddenly, right before the IPO, work on that narrative as well, and say that no, it's not. It's been profitable for it's only been loss making for 1 quarter because of COVID. Otherwise, it's a profitable business. It's been run very prudently by the founder.
And how importantly is the founder's personal brand?
Oh my God!
During this
that's a separate podcast, Neeraj.
Okay.
You'll have to come back, or your crew will have to stay for longer. It's extremely critical.
From an IPO point of view,
it is extremely.
I'm sure. In general, also you would agree that in general personal branding is important, but for IPO,
I'm not saying personal branding is not important or important. It is. Is it important? Absolutely. Does everyone do it? To varying degrees, yes.
But for IPO,
but the perception of your founder is extremely critical. We are in an emotional country. We need to be able to tell a story about the founder as well. How much skin does he have in the game? Does he have a clean image? All of this matters.
Yeah.
We had analysts who would come in here and see a office filled with people and feel good that, oh my God, you have people in the office working. This is so heartening for us. Even if I had all interns, they never asked what team.
Yeah.
We've had those analysts as well who walked the floor and randomly stopped people and said, what do you work on? Right? But the kind of access that we've given to them has been appreciated by the analyst community. That, RateGain is an open book. It's easy to understand. But the founder perception is extremely, extremely critical. And in that regard, we are extremely lucky that, you will not really find a lot about Bhanu. Right? Except that he bought a house, right? Which is also now. But at the time of the listing, there wasn't a lot about him, which is good and bad. I would see it more as bad that, we should have done a lot more way before.
But did you do something during those 6 months to build his profile?
Not that I remember. We could not do a lot because we had such a short notice to do the IPO that there are restrictions that kick in on what you can say and what you cannot say. So my recommendations to anyone who's thinking of an IPO is that before your DRHP is filed, involve your marketing team and try and include as many facts as possible that you might want to use for promotions and have a backup of that fact. A backup essentially would be that the banker and the lawyer should be able to prove that this is something which is validated by them. So include that as much as possible. Case studies, facts, achievements.
But you don't necessarily need like a campaign, right? For example, in case of RateGain, I think it was more about making people just aware about RateGain, right? I mean, that was the need of the hour. But not necessarily a fancy campaign.
No, you don't need a fancy campaign. Again, you need to kind of roll up your sleeves and understand what is the actual problem I need to solve. And then go and solve it. Do you need mega budgets for it? No. Is it good to have a budget for it before the IPO? Yes, definitely. Definitely helps if your founder is known. People are investing in people.
Yeah.
Right? Shiv Nadar had this very famous CNBC interview. People buy from people. Such a profound learning that he gave. At the end of the day, people invest in people, people buy from people.
Right.
So your persona will be looked upon on who you are, what you do. And there are enough examples that you can look at some of the most successful consumer companies that are listed, right? Where you will see the personal brand immediately changing over the last 1 year.
Yeah.
Right? When we look at, let's say, Zomato, the amount of visibility on LinkedIn that Dipinder has now, and the amount of content he's posting about product features.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's not personal branding.
Yeah.
He's building perceptions for the investors.
Right.
Right? You've gone from a wacky brand, which you continue to be, and you continue to do amazing stuff as a brand, to a founder that is constantly talking about product features. Look at the amount of product features he's come out with in the last 2-3 months.
Last 2-3 months, right?
Group ordering, this.
And I think that somewhere, again, there's no direct correlation, but yeah, the stock prices now are much better placed as compared to what it was earlier, right?
Right. So that's a conscious effort. And you will see that with a lot of founders who have very good sense of marketing and who have time in listing, that they focus a lot on this.
But as a marketer, as a head of marketing, CMO of a company, is personal branding of founders should be a mandate for the marketer, like the CMO marketing team?
The personal branding of a founder should be the mandate of the founder as well.
As well, right?
As well.
Yeah.
If your founder, your leadership needs to understand that it is their KRA also to talk about the company and themselves.